that, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship. This is round number 7 of this season, coming to you tonight from VIR. My name is Maunz. Alongside me, working the comms and the cams here tonight, is Mr. Joshua Wilkie. And now, Josh, we've gotten the opportunity to cover a lot of VIR racing in the past year, but not usually here in cars nearly as quick as these F4s. You know, we think about the cars we get to cover here, it's Formula Vs, it's SRFs, it's an FF probably at the quickest. So coming here to VIR is almost like driving down a road that you've been on before, but you took the scenic route to get there, so it still feels just a little bit unusual.
That's not a bad way to put it. This place is fairly rustic. It's definitely got some undulation and some ups and downs, a lot of sort of piff paff sort of corners around here that you need to get right. If you mess one up, well, you'll mess all 3 or 4 up in a row for sure. And there is definitely elements of this place that feel a little bit like a country road perhaps as well, Ron, and that's sort of the charm around here, I think, as well. It does feel a little bit organic. There's a nice flow and a nice rhythm I've always been able to find around here, at least on a good day, and that's what you're going to need today too. You're going to need to find that rhythm. There's going to be some drafting some decision making to be done, and some very tricky corners as well.
Yeah, no, this track is a bit of a gem. I can't say it's a hidden gem. A lot of people know about on iRacing. A lot of people know about in real life as well. Some of the history around this place I always find to be very fascinating. I'm, a racing history nerd, so it's part of the reason why I'm always usually hyped up whenever we get to see a race at Indianapolis. But whenever I get to talk about some of the history around these venues as well, it's pretty fascinating. Of course, back in the 60s and 70s, I think I raised this point during the Watkins Glen broadcast last week here for the F4s. There are many tracks here in the States that every sort of event that went down, from a small little amateur level event like the STCA through to bigger events like Formula One, IMSA, doesn't matter. It would always be a party atmosphere. It would basically be like Woodstock. That's pretty much what this track gained a reputation for throughout most of its early incarnation from the 50s through until the 70s. And the owners of the track didn't really like the rowdy crowds and said, nope, we're not doing this anymore. Shut the track down. And it wasn't until 1997, I believe, when the ownership group that owns the track today bought it back. It was basically an abandoned ring road around a chicken farm, but they brought it back in pretty much a completely unchanged layout. I think they knocked out a couple of bridges and maybe changed a turn or two. They also completely added in the infield circuit that we all know and love today. Well, maybe we all know, not really love today. But this track, it's got some fantastic history coming back from abandonment. I think there's only a few tracks in racing history that can share that same moniker. North Wilkesboro Speedway, not too far of a drive from here in Wilkes County out there in North Carolina, and probably Indianapolis when it was briefly abandoned during the Second World War. But with my prerequisite history lesson taken care of, Josh, now that we're in the second half of the season, we got to pay attention to these races, because our dominant championship points leader, if you want to go through the points here, I do want to raise Damian Dietrich. Gonna have to start this race from the pits, I believe, here tonight. That's gonna be quite the upset.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting from the pits, not going to be the best around here for sure. There is a drafting chance around here, so if you can maybe make that up, perhaps Damian can make up some time if he can catch up to the back of that pack quickly. But you can see our points here on 119 points for Damian is in first place so far this season into round 7 here. Henry Ryback just behind him with 91 points. Then you'll find Jacob Guyton in third with 90, then 73 for Greg Meyer. Jose Navas Molina will be in 5th with 60. We'll let you guys have a look at the rest of those points, and they are close, aren't they, Ron? Pretty much down the entire field. It's pretty much still all to play for here.
Yeah, the field very much so packed in like sardines when it comes to the point standings, even here now into the second half of this championship. But Damian Dietrich certainly has been the dominant man throughout this season, but that pit lane start's potentially going to hurt him a little bit. Does have a couple of things working for him, though, in that regard. He won't have to worry about the nightmare. Columbia School of Broadcasting wants me to say this the proper way. The Fustercluck that turn 1 can be here at VIR. He's going to be able to avoid that, and as you mentioned, Josh, with that stupidly long back straightaway, some pretty good draft opportunities to catch his way back up.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have the pace around here and you have the rhythm around here, you can make it work, I think. You'd probably be able to make up some pretty good positions there, but we do know this is a fairly short race as well, so you're really going to have to hustle it out. And it's not, just because you can catch someone doesn't mean you're going to be able to get around him either. So he's got a bit of work ahead of him here, but I think if you can make it happen around VIR, probably just on board now with Jose Navas Molina dealing with a little bit of slower traffic there, perhaps still on a fast lap. Not a lot of time left here to improve that lap for our drivers out there, but it's looking pretty close from top to bottom. Brian Trzynski actually pretty far ahead at the moment here. Behind him, you're going to start getting close, but that's a big gap there. 3/10 is pretty big around VIR. So once again this week, Brian Trzynski putting in some pretty good laps here in the early showing tonight. Let's see if maybe he can turn that into a win again, showing his prowess in the rain last time out.
Yeah, Brian Trzynski has been super duper quick here in this championship. Was able to grab his first SRG win, in fact, 2 weeks ago in the rain at Interlagos.
Oh, right, that's right. I wasn't around.
Here in this championship. Watkins Glen last time out. as somebody who's dealt with fairly regular back pain since he got out of his karts back when he was 18, I can definitely feel the pain of blocking out whenever the other back pain is, especially kicking our hind ends in. But it was actually Stevie Ray getting his first SRG win. So the Weekend Warriors bunch are on a streak of 2 victories here this season. Now, Damian Dietrich preceded them by having 3 wins straight. Not sure if he'll return to victory lane for win number 4 here tonight, but we will just have to see. Certainly Stasinski looking quick here in this qualifying session as we keep an eye on Ken Estep running around the circuit right now. There's Stasinski in that car. Brilliant livery mocked up by TW3 Paints and Tom went over there. Got to see Tom running in the American Muscle Series race at Rudskogen a little bit earlier on here tonight. I gotta say here, Josh, of course, TW3, one of our partners here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, but also Enrique Vela from the Sim Racers Group. We have got some of the best paint schemes, point blank period, in all of iRacing broadcasting. Every single show we do, we've got some absolute bangers out there on track.
Yeah, something I'm definitely proud of as well here for sure. We got some good-looking cars, some very good drivers out there behind them as well, and that's just awesome. It makes our broadcast so much nicer when there's some creativity there. We can kind of tell, what people are into a little bit sometimes, or maybe there's a joke or two, some things to a couple storylines we can pull on or something, and it just makes the broadcast so much better. So we're lucky and to have partners like TW3 out there as well that can get those paint jobs and those ideas done for you in such good fashion here for sure. And it's pretty cool here, just on board now with the 111 of Henry Ryback. Really good showing early in the season here. Ryback was looking like he might be one of the fastest guys out there. A little bit struggling around VIR today, perhaps not his favorite track, but I would expect by the end of this one that he's going to find a little bit of pace and move forward. He seems to be able to eye things in during a race there and make some stuff happen, which is, and there it is right there, up to second place, gets a 150.2, so edging a little bit closer to Brian there with the 150.0, but still hanging pretty far back here with not a lot of time left to improve and get around Brian Shazinski here. So this is going to be an interesting one. That draft is going to be interesting, Ron. What I'm wondering here is, even with that gap, that 0.2 of a gap, how long or if Brian can actually hold the pack off.
Yeah, no, the real thing, as you brought up a little bit earlier on in this broadcast about the draft, kind of keeping these drivers close, you can have some good speed here around this track, but it really all gets unraveled when you try and break away from that competition. This is an odd comparison to make, but I'll make it anyways. As a kid who was always fascinated by the space, let me try that one again. As a kid who was always fascinated by the space program and astronomy as a child, I always this is something that relates to me. Running in one of these races in these slightly low-powered F4 cars on a track that is so draft-heavy as this, it's like trying to escape out of Earth's orbit. You've got to have a lot of energy to actually be able to do it. And, more often than not, you actually won't be able to do that. You may be able to send yourself up off into orbit, but breaking away from that orbit is going to be totally different. You'll be able to get the race lead here. Not too difficult. However, breaking away and finding yourself with a huge margin may be a little bit tough. Brian does have the benefit of being a Formula V racer, so although this F4 car is certainly underpowered compared to some drivers who may cut their teeth in some quicker machinery, to a Formula V driver, this may as well be an F1 car.
Yeah, absolutely. The two differ, especially if you just got out of the V, this thing would feel like a spaceship. And yeah, I don't know if he will have, I guess what we're looking for there is escape velocity here, and see if he can actually take off and not be caught by the people behind him. But just as we're speaking there, Damian Dietrich's going to pop in a 149.9, which is real close. So those two now very close to each other in overall lap time as the qualifying session ends here. Just been on board with Pranay Kentaneni here for a lap or two. Looking like he's got a pretty good line out there. This place is deceiving. You can actually look like you're going pretty quick around here, but especially that oak tree bend, you can lose so much time in there if you don't just optimize it perfectly. You got to get out to that paint on the outside is usually what I would do, I believe, and then get that long rip down here. And Man, oh man, it honestly took me a little while to really figure this course out, maybe even a few years before you really nail it down and able to get the speed around it to catch up to some of these faster drivers here. But looking pretty close throughout the field. Up front, though, Damian Dietrich's going to pop in the fastest lap here in the closing minutes.
Yeah, so Dietrich able to jump up to what is going to be a meaningless pole position, but a pole position nonetheless. See, now this gets really tricky. Breaking the fourth wall here, folks. I have a segment in my broadcast notes where I break down all the pole sitters and all the race winners so far throughout the season. Do I count this as a pole for Damian Dietrich? If it is a pole, it's his fourth so far this season and second in a row. Certainly been very quick. An unfortunate incident late in the going last time out. Watkins Glen between himself and Greg Meyer. Part of the reason why he's picked up this penalty here. Has to start at the other tail end of the grid. But either way, we know the speed is certainly there for the German beyond the wheel of that 444 machine. The only driver here in qualifying to break below that 1 minute and 50-second brackets. Even in practice, only one driver was able to do that, and that was Brian Szynski, who got it done by 9 thousandths of a second. Still finding some good pace here in qualifying, but just need a little bit more to try and grab that pole, even a little bit more from his fastest time in practice. So certainly, you know, two very quick drivers up towards the top of the running order, but the likes of Henry Ryback, Jason Chess, we're seeing warm up his tires on pit lane there, not touching that one. He's going to be very quick. Jose Navas strong as well. It is a very competitive group of racers that we have got set to grab the green flag here in a few moments time here. Josh, this we could say is the calm before the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. This place is a knife fight for sure to get a pass done. You're going to be able to catch that person in front of you even with a little mistake or two down that back straight. As long as you can keep tucked up under that wing or even close to it, it's going to give you chances over and over again. And man, if you're leading, that can be a real bug for sure for you. But if you're catching, it can be really fun around here. There's a lot of chasing to be done, getting a great static shot there of that S's section. And it's just so much fun to come through there. Really difficult section leading into there as well to get it right and really get that pull out of there. So it's going to be an interesting one tonight for sure, Ron. And we'll get our grid going here ASAP and get her started.
Yeah, get that starting grid loaded, get rocking and rolling here for this race. It's going to be Damian Dietrich, meant to start from the pole, but it's going to be Brian Szynski all by himself there on the front row. See, I would start singing the song, but I don't want to blow everybody's eardrums out. Henry Ryback is in P3 with Jason Chess completing her second row. Jose Navas Molina will start this race in P5 next to Greg Meyer in sixth. Jacob Guyton will be in seventh. Matthew Hunter, making his return to the championship after a couple of weeks off earlier this season, will be in P8. Stevie Ray looking for back-to-back wins. Gonna be a little bit tough for him. He'll start this race in ninth with Pranay Ketaneni completing our top 10.
Yeah, and then in 11th place, we have Jason Trantham. In 12th place, we have Startup Vase. I'll get this to move forward a little bit here. 13th, we have Ken Glasser. Bob Eggert in 14th. 15th, Rudy Samudio. And Ken Estep will round out the field in 16th place.
And so there you have it, folks. 16 drivers set to grab the green flag here in a couple of moments' time. And once again, I want to thank you all for tuning into the action here on SMB. We have got a good one in store. Of course, a little bit of a lengthy wait before we can finally get going here in this race as a result of the pit lane start for Damian Dietrich. We are going to run this all the way through to regulation, all the way through to time, and then we'll finally get a race start here and what will feel like a wait for 50,000 years for some of your top running racers. Jason Chess using that time to just give himself a bit more of a leg up there. He's yet to join the starting grid himself, but expecting him to run strong here in this race. Is actually not going to be joining us on the starting grid. Pranay Ketaneni not in pit lane either. So multiple drivers starting this race from the pits. We'll touch on those drivers here as a green flag flies. The drivers are on their way, and Szynski already being hounded. It's side-by-side racing heading downtown into Horseshoe of turn number one. That's Henry Ryback looking for it down the inside. Szynski Navas currently holding on to P3 right now, trying everything in his book to look for another victory after starting off the season strong. We're going to start off the second half in the same way that he started the season proper. Looking at Stevie Ray, already 2 spots gained, doing large parts of the drivers who came down pit lane right at the start. Predi Ketsanetti was one of those drivers with the pit lane start, and he's got a black flag as well. Unfortunate for a driver who showed some very good speed earlier in qualifying.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We'll go back, see if we can't figure out exactly what happened to Cantoneni on that one, but that's going to put him back for sure. He's going to have some work to do now in the back for sure. But Henry Ryback up front here going to make that early move, hold on to that early position here from Brian Trzynski, and we're looking pretty good here up front. Already starting to space out a bit. That looks like we maybe got a pass out of Greg Meyer there around Jose Navas Molina. Now going to look up the inside. This is what we were talking about early on the run up there, Ron. This is not an easy place to hold somebody off. Very, very difficult to make it down this front straight here. If you've made a couple mistakes or maybe out of that oak tree bend, you're going to get caught by a bunch of cars. You can see the 64 there of Jacob Guyton as well, getting a pretty good rip. Jose Navas Molina now going to smoke the inside tire. And the Taco Bell car of Greg Meyer is going to follow him along in sympathy off that corner there. It's so easy to do, isn't it, Ron? I think we've probably both been there on that one. Jason Trantham, I believe, going to get that one wrong. Not sure what he did there. Maybe a little bit. Oh, there's just so much going on right now, Ron. I'm not even sure what to say anymore.
Yeah, and Stevie Ray somehow mounting the wall there on the inside. It was a messy second half to the lap as things got twisty. It's a roller coaster of emotions once you head your way out of roller coaster. And here's the roller coaster ride for Stevie, trying to stay off the racetrack to avoid rejoining in an odd way. Ends up spinning it on the grass, got clobbered by Greg Meyer, and then got his wheel stuck on the Armco barrier. I've probably done about 1,200 broadcasts on the iRacing platform over the past 3.5 years. I have seen an F4 car strike the bridge through the final few turns at Road Atlanta, for crying out loud. I have never seen that. As you can see, Stevie Ray, that was also Jose Navas going off the track a few turns earlier. There's the vaulting of the wall for Stevie, and just gets caught in it like a rat stuck in a glue trap. What in the world?
Yeah, it does look wow. Just what a crazy chain of events we just witnessed right there. And honestly, it's hard to put a blame on really any person there. I don't think the rejoin was particularly bad. They were kind of holding the inside Trantham, just sort of getting pushed offline a little bit, and it's so easy to lose it right there when you get pushed offline in that particular way, right in that particular spot. Greg Meyer, I don't really think doing anything wrong there, but and unfortunately, it just kicked everything off. A little bit of maybe spatial awareness issues in the end there after so much going on around. Stevie Ray going to get caught up in it, but wow, some unfortunate events there and a pretty wild chain of events, Ron. I got completely tongue-tied there. I wasn't even sure what to say anymore that Stevie was up in the air backwards.
You know, sometimes even for us broadcasters, the words do escape us. Unfortunate for Stevie, unfortunate for Sarah Vase, who's out of this race as well. As right now, Brian Trzynski looking forward on Henry Ryback side by side as they head their way into turn number 1. That's going to work out for Ryback, who's still going to hold on to that top spot. Jacob Guyton putting on a fantastic effort so far. He's been able to shuffle his way up into P3 as a result of all the death, destruction, and chaos going on around him right now. It's sort of like, well, the thoughts were in my own head when the Phillies blew the game in the 9th inning just about 24 hours ago against the Miami Marlins. Tune in next week when I complain more about the Phillies bullpen. We're on board with Matthew Hunter as he tries to apply this pressure right now. This is a fight for third.
Yeah, and we can see this section of the course really mega when you're behind somebody here. You're really kind of trying to look past them a little bit. See those apexes where you can try not to miss one. Is actually Matthew Hunter is going to get that one wrong a little bit. Perhaps exactly what I was saying there. You get slightly unsighted, and you really do have to snipe that apex there from a distance. You really do have to kind of throw the car through it, and it can get a little bit difficult when your sight is blocked with another F4 car right in front of you like that. But it is a pretty mega section, really fun to follow somebody through there. We can watch this draft here down this massive back straightaway. Awesome corner section here. There's a couple ways to get a pass done here, but you know, you really do have to have somewhat of a passing partner, don't you, Ron, to get a pass done through here. Somebody has to sort of see it coming and then maybe not allow it to happen, but at least know that you're there when you're trying it. And then one of the hardest corners in the entire track here. Got to get the power down just right here. You can see that little bit of a hesitation on the throttle there from Matthew Hunter, and that's exactly what you want to do in some cases, so you don't push super wide. You really do have to kind of feather the throttle there. We're going to get another draft down the front straight here. Still not quite able to get it done though, so draft not working maybe quite as powerful as we had thought it was, and it's not easy to stay behind someone around here all the time, is it?
You know, that it is not, as much as these F4 cars aren't exactly gutsy when it comes to the engine department. The aero isn't so massive that you find yourself getting a huge benefit. You know, the Formula Vs that have about as much power as your standard kitchen microwave, so that helps them to be able to draft like maniacs throughout most of those races. Here in these F4 cars, they have enough power to be able to get out of bad situations whenever they find themselves in one, and they don't punch a huge hole in the air. You look at a lot of open wheel cars, especially the brand new IndyCar Dallara IR28 chassis that was revealed by IndyCar a little bit earlier on today. People are talking about how massive the wings were on that brand new chassis. These F4 cars, they're basically bits of plywood painted on. As you can see, big trouble there in the midfield. That right there was Ken Glasser and Greg Meyer nearly coming to blows as they headed their way through the S's.
Yeah, we just came back. I just looked over and saw some red numbers there, and they're really close to each other. And of course, we got there and just saw them shooting the gap there for sure. Let's see if we can't go back here maybe and get a quick replay of exactly what happened there. But it looks like they're fighting for position here. And we're going to maybe Greg Meyer here looking from behind, and unfortunately a little bit off track from everybody, and the Taco Bell car going to take evasive action into the green stuff there, able to hold on to it. So some good hands on Greg Meyer there to hold on to that car in that moment there. Bit of a crazy frenetic session here in a couple moments. We are just getting in the chat here, somebody saying we're going to have to clip that chain of events there and send it to iRacing for the weekly the monthly not so top 10. Perhaps, and I think that's a great idea. I will get on that. I think that should be a pretty good one, but not exactly what you want to see out there now as we're watching Matthew Hunter and Jacob Guyton fighting for position side by side. This is a place you can fight here for sure. There's enough room to be side by side, but it is going to slow you down a lot, although I don't really think they're super worried about that at the moment. They are fighting for third place, not a lot of time left. Looks like maybe, there's not maybe enough time left to catch the people in front. Guy behind in Damien Dietrich, he does have some speed. I'd be a little worried about him, but you don't want to lose too much time. I'm actually going to take that back. Damien Dietrich is behind them. If they fight too hard, Ron, Damien Dietrich's going to be on them in no time here, and they're definitely going to lose another position. So there's enough time left for him to catch these guys, but they're going at it for sure for P3.
The mark of a good season, the mark of a good championship season is being able to have a good day in what looked like a really, really bad day to start off with, able to salvage the runs. Right now, if Damien Dietrich can walk away from this race with a top 5, he should be very pleased with that. As we take a look, a little bit of squabbling, I nearly said scrabbling, that was going on there, heading off the snake section. Got my tongue wrapped around my teeth about 17 times. That's my fault for drinking a whole bottle of super glue before I went live with the show. That was Jason Trantham and Ken Glasser battling for the final spot inside the top 10. Trantham now holding on to that right there. Gotta say, I think there was a little bit of shuffling going on in that fight between Jacob Guyton, Matthew Hunter, and Damien Dietrich. We saw at least Guyton and Hunter pretty close to each other. That gap is now blown out. As let's see what happened. This was heading into Oak Tree.
Yeah, I think if my ears are not deceiving me there, I heard some tires screeching, and Matthew Hunter going to get it a little bit wrong there going into Oak Tree. I think I'm going to jump on board actually quickly with Hunter if I can here and see exactly how that one transpired there. And this is not an easy corner. It looks a little easier, and yeah, it's that mid-corner sort of ness of this corner where you're sort of middling and you're not really sure. It's sort of hard to open the wheel. It's kind of hard to tighten the wheel in certain spots there, and that's just going to catch him out. It's a really a lot more difficult corner than it looks to enter, especially that mid corner, and then to really sort of get it tucked in and get on the gas early can be very difficult and Matthew Hunter sort of missing out on that one, unfortunately. I feel his pain. I've been there before, for sure. It took me a very long time to figure Oak Tree out for whatever reason. And, I've said this before. I really wish iRacing would just put the Oak Tree back for at least one layout. I wish we had an Oak Tree version of VIR so we could just have it back with that sap underneath it and the shade there, and maybe just a little bit easier of an eyeball, too. You can kind of eyeball that corner a little bit more, but... back to the racing and my woes here. We'll put that behind us as Henry Ryback still hunting down Brian Shazinski here. A little bit of back and forth between them, so nobody's been able to pull away yet. Getting into about 10 minutes left here, just under 10 minutes left, so they do have a pretty big gap from the folks in front of them, and he's going to snag a wheel on the inside there. Not going to lose out too much. You really don't want to lose that draft around here if somebody's got any pace on you at all, do you, Ron? He's going to have to try to get that back in the 84, hold on to that front tire, and we've seen this before. I think we were doing the F3 race last week there, watching one of the drivers, I believe Jason Green, just snag that inside tire. And once you do it once, it can happen a bunch more times, can it?
Yeah, that wheel, that tire is always going to find that exact same flat spot, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse from there. I've had an idea. How about for Oak Tree? We actually plant a maple tree there. I'm not sure how well a maple would grow down there in Virginia, but I think that would be good because some of the sap coming off of that tree could make the track a lot stickier as you head your way through there, because Lord knows you do need any sort of grip assistance you can get through there, because much like many of the other racetracks we've visited throughout this season, Watkins Glen last time out, and certainly Lime Rock, a track that I very much so make this comparison with. This track was built to highway safety standards, so the grass runoff areas are tilted away, especially out of South Bend, as Greg Meyer going to dip a wheel off into the grass, proving the point. The track falls away from you so much there whenever you go wide that it is very easy for one small little off-track encounter to end in catastrophe. This is a little bit earlier. This was a calm before the storm, but you could already see Meyer found himself in a very intense battle before stuff hit the fan.
Yeah, definitely here. I think this might be a little closer to that incident, so he's going to kind of get pinched down a little bit there, doing the right thing and kind of holding his line, or at least tucking his line in so he wouldn't make contact there, and that inside curb going to unsettle the car. And then from there, it's just kind of recovery drive. So going to do the right thing, though, get back on track here. Didn't ruin anybody's day, as we're seeing Ken Glasser lock it up, just coming out of Oak Tree there a little bit. That's going to give that corner to Greg Meyer for now. Ken Glasser going to tuck in behind him, see if he can't get a bit of a draft down this back straightaway, maybe get a chance into this next complex of corners here. But, yeah, VIR is one of those tracks that you either have it and you find that rhythm, Ron, or you kind of fall out of rhythm around here. And because it is sort of a rhythm-based track, you can just feel all over the place, like you're all left feet, especially if you snag a wheel, or the car starts pushing really hard, or just something's not working with your setup. This place can just be hell, and it's kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe a small Suzuka or something like that, where when you start getting things wrong, it's just horrible. It's like biting your cheek. You just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and can't wait till it's over, sort of thing. But up front here, looking pretty good. We got Brian Shazinski back up front here, kind of Henry Ryback now bringing up the rear here, trying to find a way to get by him. So they're still going back and forth here on. There's lots to play for, and enough time to get it done.
Yeah, so still enough time for these two to battle. Will note, as we were taking a look at the other replays of that little moment there with Greg Meyer, there was a slowdown that cost Henry Ryback the top spot, but he is still there, still within striking distance. A half a second margin here at VIR, even these F4 cars, is by no means insurmountable. So keep it on Ryback. I think if he can play his cards right, a win is certainly in the picture. This would be a fantastic result for either of these drivers. Ryback still looking for his first win here in this season, as Brian Shazinski looking for his second in just the past 3 weeks, as Ryback going to get the move done, heading off through roller coaster.
Yeah, very commanding move there from Ryback. He's very confident on the brakes, very confident into that corner. You absolutely have to be. And like I said earlier, you need another good driver around you to make that pass happen. And man, is it ever fun to race like that through that section and make a pass like that and actually have it get done here. And again, Brian Shazinski doing the right thing here as well. You know, not putting up too much of a fight there. That is where you're going to have an accident. If you put up too much defense, you will get into an accident in that corner. So he's going to let that one go for now because he had the run, and he's going to tuck in behind him and maybe get another chance here. So there's some really heads-up driving from both drivers here. Super cool to see in the SRG F4 series here. Some really heads-up driving. So you can just see, you know, how these sort of feeder series work, how these grass route series work. They're going to make you a better driver. They're going to make you more competent on the track, and you know, you start to learn that things are actually a lot more mental than you can't just go out there and pound around as fast as you possibly can. Sometimes you do have to let things ebb and flow a little bit. You have to let people by you so that you can have another chance later, so that the whole thing works properly, basically. So SRG works the way that it should, so that your racing partners out there trust you next time you're around, and it all comes back around at some point. So some pretty good stuff here up at the front. Pretty spaced out now in the rest of the field. Jacob Guyton just behind these two drivers here, Damien Dietrich. Then you're going to find Matthew Hunter, who we saw have a little bit of an incident earlier, and then sort of the rest of the field. So Jose Navas Molina, Jason Chess, Bob Eckert, Jason Trantham, Greg Meyer down to 10th place. We've seen a little bit of attrition there in the, like, say, front to mid pack, haven't we, Ron?
Yeah, it has been a rather attrition. It's been a rather attrition-filled race so far here tonight. That's the downside of being up until about 4 o'clock in the morning the past 2 nights in a row. As we see trouble there, that's Ken Glasser snapped around as he headed his way through Oak Tree. It's trouble once again through what is one of the most challenging turns in all of American motorsports. It's pretty blind on entry. You're having to deal with everything through there, and not to mention the surface there as well. You can see how much the asphalt is polished. It's basically, it feels like you're driving around right after somebody poured a big bucket of latex paint there on the racing line.
It is a little bit of everything, isn't it, Ron? Even just looking through the cockpit there of Ken Glasser as he's going through it, it's a bit of a perfect storm. You sort of have a bit of an awkward corner that you need to maximize entry and exit on, and mid-corner speed. You've got about 3 or 4. Whoa, as we see Brian Shazinski going a little wide there on the outside. He's going to hold that one together for now, but that's going to give that is going to give the draft away now to Henry Ryback. So looks like he's going to be charging off into the sunset here, perhaps. But back to that corner, the perfect storm of asphalt and different types of concrete and everything else there. Some patchwork. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a crazy corner. It's got a bit of a rise on it's maybe a bit convex as well as concave in one point. See him going through it now here, and you're kind of out onto this polished section, and then you're out onto the curb. You're not really sure how much to take of that sometimes. You can get a good snap in a car that can really put the power down. You got to be a little bit tiptoey in that section too. So once again, VIR showing us the cracks, showing us the weak points in our driving, things we need to work on out there in the simulator. So always fun to come to VIR. Honestly, I always relish the chance to race around here and maybe make a pass into this section here. One of my favorite spots if you have the right guy beside you or a gal beside you into that section. But getting into the wee hours now here. Henry Ryback looking like he's holding this one down pretty good. Brian Shazinski with a really solid drive as well. Jacob Guyton just behind him. So that's going to be perhaps our podium here on. Not quite over yet, but looking pretty good at this point. Everybody's spaced out now.
Yeah, looking pretty spaced out at the current moment. I was just going to say real quick, as we are definitely in the other closing stages, the white flag in the air for Henry Ryback as he came across a stripe right there. So one more lap of racing action for the driver of that 111 car. Was just going to say, talking about this track and how complex it is, it's one that these drivers get a decent amount of opportunity to run here in sim. However, it's a tough nut to crack here at VIR. 3.27 miles as iRacing judges it. You can take those numbers with a grain of salt. 18 turns in all. Those are the ones that they actually bothered to number. Yes, this is one of those American tracks that has A and B turns, to the chagrin of most broadcasters. However, this is one of those tracks where the best way I can describe it, it's like handing a mixed up Rubik's Cube to different animal species. You hand a mixed up Rubik's Cube to a chimpanzee, they may be able to make it work. You hand up a mixed up Rubik's Cube to a weasel, they're going to have absolutely no idea what's going on. These oh my goodness me, look at Damien Dietrich fighting down there. That was a gutsy move. Damian Dietrich having to carry his balls around in a wheelbarrow. That was absolutely fantastic.
You might say he weaseled his way right through there. We totally caught him sleeping. Not actually going to get that one done, but that is going to leave him very vulnerable here to a comeback move from Matthew Hunter. Of course, when you go that deep into the corner, you're going to maybe not get the best exit in the world. Hunter hunting around behind another pun that we can squeeze in there in under a minute, as well as trying to get these guys, and they're going to make it nice and clean there as well. So the 444, nice and clean there through that section. Made a little bit of a tap there, but they're going to get through it. So pretty awesome stuff here, and really close to the line between these two as well. Action in the final minutes here.
Yeah, I think if Brian Szynski, if he had a slightly better run there towards the end, he may have been able to get him there. 0.08 of a second. We're going to have to reel that back.
Yeah, we will.
That may be a record for one of the closest finishes in Sim Racers Group history. Certainly in the time that I've been doing the broadcast, that was incredibly tense as they came towards a stripe. Say what you will about this track and this car being run on it, but it's a bit of a it's a photo finish farm here at Virginia International Raceway, and we saw another one go on just a few moments ago. It was a good finish there. It was a good battle there with Damian Dietrich and Matthew Hunter. You know, that's the first time I've ever said any sort of comment like that on a broadcast. So, Damian, congratulations. You pulled off a move that was so good, I had to reminisce from a comment that I got from one of my first ever iRacing broadcasting colleagues, who said that when I was on the air with him, and I nearly burst a blood vessel in my eye laughing so hard shortly after he said it. And he's going to be one of the last cars to see the checkered flag here, as Brennan Ketzeneni will finish in 14th. But Josh, that race, I feel like it was the first 5 minutes and the final 5 minutes that were absolute madness.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to look back here on this finish between Henry Ryback and Brian Szynski here, and he is so close to making this one. Not quite enough there at the end, but great racing between those two, right down to the line for sure, as well as at the end there between Matthew Hunter and Damian Dietrich, giving us a pretty good show right to the line. Some attrition out there for sure. Just on the screen now, Ken Istep finishing in 13th place, up 3 positions. Great drive for him today. Good job out there for Ken as well. I believe Damian Dietrich now, that'll be up 13 positions if my math is correct from the pit lane start. So even though it shows position down 3, that is because he got pole, but ended up having to start from the pit lane. So he's going to be up 13 positions in total, I believe, up to 4th place. So pretty awesome march to that position for him. We're going to get our customary lineup here at the end of the beautiful paint jobs and our winners today. Great racing again in the SRG F4 series here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Really just bringing the heat every week, honestly. Both of these series, the F4 and the F3, just some great racing, great camaraderie out there, some awesome, just an awesome league, man. These guys ripping together. Brian Szynski going to burn it down a little bit as we get some donuts from everybody as well here. What a great race around VIR, man. This was an exciting one.
Yeah, it was a very, very exciting race from start to finish, and a night of firsts. It's the first pole for Brian Szynski. Technically it was Damian Dietrich, but he had to start from the pit, so I'll count the pole in favor of Brian. That's the first win for Henry Ryback. Finally gets it done after what has been a rather competitive run so far here in this series. Sure, for that driver, that the best is yet to come. But let's take a look at your race results, shall we, here for round number 7 of the Sim Racers Group F4 Championship here at VIR, and it's Henry Ryback getting the job done. Brian Szynski will come home in P2 with Jacob Guyton running at your podium in 3rd. From there, Damian Dietrich will be in 4th. Matthew Hunter is in P5. Jose Navas comes across the stripe in 6th with Jason Chess, Bob Eggert, Jason Trantham, and Greg Meyer completing your top 10. From there, it's Ken Glasser finishing in 11th, Rudy Samudio in 12th. Again, Istep will be in lucky spot P13. Pranay Ketzeneni, last of the cars to see the checkered flag in this race, started from the pits, had a penalty earlier on, ends up in P14. Stevie Ray, who vaulted over the wall as he headed his way out of the final turn, will be in P15 with Sarah Vase running at your 26 cars. 16 cars, pardon me, classified here in this race. Now at this point, folks, I want to tell you that sleep is important. But Josh,
Yep.
I'll pass the mic off to you and ask who you would like to have a chat with here. I think we have Brian Zdzinski up there in the broadcast interview waiting area, enjoying some of the chips and dips that we have up there. He had a pretty wild race, so this could be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring Brian down here into the booth and have a chat with him. That was some pretty awesome racing out there, Brian. You guys had a pretty good battle back and forth and really close down to the line there as well. Really finding some pace in the F4 cars here. So congrats on that one and another good a good result tonight.
Oh, that was so much fun. I guess I don't know where Henry is, but he had an awesome race, and that was so much fun. I don't know why the pole position did not take the pole position. It really threw me off at the start, and he got me into turn one. I was perfectly happy to just hang behind him to see if we could make a gap and then have some fun. We got that. It was like 4 seconds. Then we had a little fun, and I was like, all right, we could just wait till the end. Let's save our tires because that's a big consideration here. And he acted like he got a slowdown on Madison Avenue, which was kind of weird, and it got in my head. And I was like, all right, well, if I can get away from him because I have pace here, you know, if magic happens, let's see it. I couldn't, so I kind of was trying to play head games with him and gave it back to him on the next lap, and then was perfectly willing to sit there because I knew I had so much on him in roller coaster and hog pen. And then right hook, I put a wheel off and went 1.7 seconds down and did a 49.5 on that last lap, which I didn't know was possible in these cars. But I really threw it at it, and congrats to Henry. Oh, he is here. All right. Yeah, I got to go talk to him. But yeah, congrats, Henry. That was awesome racing. I love this series. I love this car. I love this track. Woohoo!
Nice, right on. Yeah,
idea.
Yeah, go for it, Ron. Yep, shoot.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say here, Josh, I'll let you conduct the rest of the interview, but Brian, here's an odd little thing. Would you want to potentially do an on-air interview with Henry Ryback? This seems like a little fun idea.
Yes,
Totally
let's
up
go.
to
Let's
you.
go.
Let's bring him in.
Yes.
Alrighty. So I'll let you guys do the rest of the interview, and then we'll move off to Brian trying to do our job, and probably doing a lot better than I can here tonight, considering I'm getting my tongue wrapped around my teeth every time I open my mouth.
Yeah, let's bring Henry down here as well. So Henry, we've got you both in here right now. You guys had a great race. You and Brian Zdzinski here, just talking a little bit about the track there. He had a few little incidents here and there. We actually did catch on our screens there that little touch of the grass there, Brian, and lost that draft, but then was able to plug in a really good lap. And I believe there was a slowdown for Henry Ryback as well. Maybe we can chat about that. Henry, did you get a slowdown?
Yes, I did.
Right. Okay. So that's why we ended up catching up to each other there. Maybe you can tell us, Henry, a little bit about the racing with Brian today there, and your laps around VIR. Looked like you definitely had your eye in here for sure.
I'll say very good fighting with Brian. I'm very happy that the racing stayed clean for the most part. I do wonder though what happened in the later part of the race, because it felt like he just started lacking pace really quickly. Brian,
Henry,
do you know what happened?
Yes, I was just going to hang behind you and wait till the last lap.
Oh,
Unless you're talking where I fell back 1.7 seconds. That I put a wheel in the grass out of right hook, like turn 5 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah, but 3 laps to go. I was just gonna, lift off and keep like a 0.4 second gap down the straights, and wait till that last lap, and then I burned that last lap with not an incident, but a mistake with 2 to go.
Yeah. Now looking at the finishing results, you're only 800ths away from me.
It was 800ths away. That was a really, really close one out there for sure, guys. And this place is, you can race side by side around here, but we saw a couple passes there. As one in particular I can remember that was just after the long back straight there, and you need a kind of good passing partner to get a good pass through there. One of my favorite places to actually make a pass happen, but put on a pretty good show for us today for sure. So did you guys put a lot of practice in for this week, or is this a course you guys just kind of jive with? You know, for me, this is a very rhythm-based track, and if you can't find that rhythm, it can get really difficult. And there's some tricky corners around here, like definitely over at Oak Tree, we saw some incidents there as well tonight. But did you guys jive with this track, or is this one you got to practice and work for?
I didn't practice that much actually. I kind of forgot because I had other stuff on my mind. But I thought I was really doomed. I thought it would go maybe like Watkins Glen last round, maybe gain some places in the race and get some extra points for hard charger. But apparently I can go win it. It's of course Virginia is a track that you do all the way from the rookies in the officials, so I think we all know it pretty well.
Yeah, I'd have to say that's probably true. Go ahead, Brian. You're next.
Dan Clark threw up a practice session last night, and I did 55 laps, thinking 5 times a race distance would get me in the groove, and I really felt very comfortable here. In the Formula V, we don't do the full track, and it was nice to stretch the legs out and get to the back end of it. But yeah, I put in some laps last night.
Yeah, and really jiving with this car. We're hearing you say there as well in the F4, really enjoying this machinery as well. I also, this is a pretty good car. I found it very fun as well. Good racy machine to learn the open wheel stuff in, or perhaps just an advanced open wheel car. Pretty fun stuff. But we're headed out to Portland for our next race here, Portland Full Circuit. And have you guys been there too much? I know it's fairly new to the service, and I know I don't have many laps around there. It's probably going to be new to a few people in SRG F4, I think. Maybe we'll start with Brian here. Is this one you're going to be practicing for this week, or are you fairly familiar with it?
I have the track. I haven't raced there. So yeah, I'm going to have that. I haven't done new tracks since the first 2 weeks here. So yeah, I'll be putting some time in there. It should be fun. Watching IndyCar races there. This is a slower version of it, kind of. So it should be awesome. And I yield all the rest of my time and all my thanks to Henry. Awesome racing with you, Henry, as always. And I love this league, and thank you everything you do, SMB.
Awesome, and we'll leave the final words here for you as well, Henry. How are you thinking about Portland next week, and maybe some thanks as well?
To be completely honest with you, I don't even own the track, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that will go. Gladly, they only count the 10 best results, so it doesn't completely matter how well I do in that one, but I'll still practice. I of course want to win again. Yeah. And then also a big thanks for the good racing to Brian. Really good racing, had a lot of fun, and he got to make me stress out a little bit, which is always a little good addition for the racing. And yeah, also big thanks to SRG and to Jason Cotcher for making all these races happen, and to you guys in SMB.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks, guys, for putting on such a good show here. Awesome being part of the SRG F4 universe and SRG universe here. Things have really been shaping up, man. All of these races have been awesome to watch. Everybody's so respectful. Lots of close racing out there, and we're looking forward to Portland and the rest of the season. So we'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good week, guys.
You too.
And that right there was Henry Ryback and Brian Szynski both joining us here in the booth at the same time. See, I like those interviews whenever it's done in a short race like this. I've done that sometimes at the end of a 6-hour-long endurance race broadcast. That's, like trying to juggle while sleep deprived, but that's neither here nor there. Josh, I'll be honest here. I had a feeling that we were in store for a pretty good race here at VIR. It's a good track. We know it's fast. We know the kind of racing that this track can bring. We've covered it enough. But I'm still rather surprised about how these F4 cars ran around here, because these drivers, I think, they still had to work for getting the moves done. It wasn't a slam dunk overtaking opportunity lap after lap. It was a nice little middle ground found here tonight.
Yeah, I think we've been finding that quite a bit lately. You know, in VIR, not an easy place to look good around, honestly. This place can, it's really easy to fall into some pitfalls and be kind of maybe hypnotized into making some over-aggressive moves around here and stuff with that big, long straightaway down the back. And they did a really good job tonight, even though we did see a little bit of attrition there, that chain of events that maybe we will be seeing on some sort of top 10 list in the next little while. But of course, that is not all we have here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Tomorrow we will be hitting up the Street Nights Racing at Le Mans. This will be the final round of season 1 here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. You can catch that at 7 p.m. Then, of course, we have the F3 fixed at Road America. SRG will be coming back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Road America, big power track, all to play for there as well in that series. Then this week, we also have the Rick Motek GT3 Challenge coming on Thursday. This will be our GT3 Challenge, of course, at Road Atlanta, round 2 at 8:10 p.m. Lots of good drivers in that one. Some really close GT3 racing, and we're excited to get that one underway here shortly as well. And then, of course, we're back on Sunday with the Ray Esports Summer Series, now fully sponsored for the entire season. We will be seeing all of the machinery and all of the tracks. Super good news there. Donington in the FF car this week. I will be on the mic with Charles Beauchel for that one, and then the American Muscle Series at Coda NASCAR West, a track I have never driven at. I don't even think I've done a lap around there, and I maybe will be back behind the wheel, and Ron will be behind the wheel in the booth for that one. And then, of course, our Portland round here that we were just speaking of as well, Ron. But pretty awesome night here for the SRG F4 series at VIR on Slow Motion Broadcasting. It's been a pretty good one, man, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season here. We still have a pretty close points battle, and the racing's just getting better and better.
Yeah, that it certainly is. The competition is fierce. The racing is incredibly intense.
Oh, and James will be back too next week.
Of action. Yeah, James will be back next round of the championship. I saw James in the other YouTube chat a little bit earlier on, so he's in our hearts here
just
tonight.
Keeping it warm for him here.
He's out working at the current moment. So yeah, keeping his seat warm here in the booth. I think I may have peed my pants, but with that taken care of, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight. Never miss out on the action by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. But for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie, working the comms and the cams with me on tonight's show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not-too-distant future.